FM. Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
City News.
It's 1700 GMT. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. I am Umaru Sanda Amadou. Coming up tonight on Eyewitness News, Court of Appeal sets former Maslow CEO Sedna Tamaklo free on the grounds that the facts did not support the charges she was convicted on 2 years ago. We'll be breaking down the judgment for you here on Eyewitness News. Also coming up,
the government has accepted a recommendation to extend the term of office of the president from 4 years to 5 years, with the term of parliament extended to correspond with this. The committee recommended that the minimum age of eligibility for election as president be reduced. The government has accepted this recommendation in principle, subject to one modification. The minimum age will be 35 years.
Government issues white paper on the Constitution Review Committee report, accepting many recommendations, including what you just heard the AG talk about, the reduction of the age qualification for president to 35 years, while extending the term limit to 5 years renewable. And still on Eyewitness News, 11 pupils injured after a tipper truck ran into a school bus on the N1 highway. We have updates for you from the hospital. And here on Eyewitness News, we have eyes on the late Kantanka family, or the family of the late Kantanka, which is a more appropriate term to use in describing them. As the comedy of errors continues, the funeral, we are told, is happening without a body because there is an injunction on the holding of the funeral. What exactly happens next? We'll be hearing from people who have been following that particular story. Eyewitness News also has business news, which will be coming from the Citi Business Desk later on the show. And then we have Talk Back, where we'll put the microphone in your hands by reading your messages, which you shall send through 0539 986 996, 0539 986 996. Alternatively, go on X and mention my handle at Umaru Sanda or at Citi973. Use the hashtag Eyewitness News. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. I'm Umaru Sanda. The two major issues that we'll be talking about today, one from the executive arm of government, the other from the judicial arm of government. Now, the judicial arm has to do with the overturning of the conviction and sentencing of Sedna Tamaklo. She's also called Christine. Now, she was former Maslow boss. She was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment for a number of crimes, including causing financial loss and also stealing when she was head of Maslow. Today, a 3-member panel of the Court of Appeal overturned that. We'll be telling you more from that judgment. But let's go to the Jubilee House, where today the government's chief legal advisor, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, went to the Jubilee House at a series organized by the Minister of State in charge of communication, which is called which is a usual updating of Ghanaians. The Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, highlighted major decisions or proposals of the Constitution Review Committee and how government reacted to that. So, on all the recommendations made by the Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh-led committee, the government accepted a number of those recommendations and rejected some with some modifications. I have in studio our head of current affairs production, Fred Tete Jabano, who has been following the proceedings from Jubilee House, where the Honorable Dominic Ayine has been expressing the decision of government in what is called a white paper. Fred, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Maro.
So a number of, I think there's a summary of 93 pages or so, 92 pages that has been released. Is that like the full set of recommendations and proposals, whether accepted or not? Is that how it is, or there's more?
So there's a 90-page document.
Okay.
And that document has the proposals and analysis of those proposals and what government has accepted and rejected. So that makes up the 90-page document. But what the Attorney General today presented was a summary of that 90-page document, which government is going to make public for everyone to see.
So just by way of background, our constitution was enacted in 1992. We have been using it since then. There have been attempts to amend the constitution. There was an attempt during Professor Mills. We had the Constitution Review Commission. That never ended anywhere. Now, I think under President Akufo-Addo, there was another attempt. We were supposed to go to a referendum to make some amendments to the constitution. That was withdrawn last minute. Now, this would perhaps be the farthest that any Constitutional Review Commission work has gone, or has it not?
No, I don't think. For now, we can't call this as the farthest.
Because the previous ones also got to this level?
Nanado's time, it actually some of the proposals went to Parliament.
Okay.
And the others were supposed to be tabled for referendum. But because there were no consensus, it was withdrawn.
Last minute.
So once it goes to Parliament and has a passage from Parliament, then you could see that this is the farthest. But as of now, and the Nana Akufo-Addo's time, where he sent the amendments for the changes in how district elections should be held, was sent to Parliament, would be the farthest. Outside that, this we can say would be the first time we've seen a committee's work being presented to the president, a white paper being issued. The other one, there was a white paper issued publicly. The Attorney General speaking about it and giving the next steps.
I see. So what happens next is that they will go to Parliament with some of the amendments that have to be given parliamentary approval.
So what happens next is that the president is going to form a constitution implementation committee.
Okay.
They would now look at all the proposals from the white paper, put them down together. So what's going to happen is there are going to be two documents. The first one would be the one with entrenched articles within the Constitution, which will be sent for referendum, and the ones which need parliamentary amendment, which would also be sent to Parliament. So that will be the next step.
Okay.
After the Constitutional Implementation Committee finishes its work, it comes up with two documents. The ones which are not entrenched will be sent to Parliament, and you need more than 2/3 to be able to change that. And the entrenched ones will be put before the people of Ghana to vote yes or no.
So, Fred, it is easier this time to go ahead with the amendment because the government side has majority.
Exactly.
More than 2/3.
They have 2/3.
I think it's actually even more than 2/3, I think. So
if you want to say more than 2/3, then you are including the
independent MPs. Okay, good,
independent
good.
MPs.
So which means that it may be more, it's easier this time around to let it go through Parliament than it has ever been.
Yes, it's easier this time around because they have the numbers to pass it.
Except the entrenched part where you have to go to the public.
Exactly.
And there are certain requirements, the percentage of
40%
turnout
of people
and how many people should vote in favor and all of that.
Exactly.
Now there's even a plan that they will tie together with the district assembly elections and all of that. Okay, so those are the technical things we'll get to later. But let's look at what the committee proposed and which ones government accepted. Let's start with the presidential term limit.
So let's start with the presidential term limit. It says that the committee proposed a 5-year term while retaining the 2-term limit. And what government decided to do was they accepted it to apply for future president. So the government also accepted the 5-term limit. Okay. So committee proposes 5, government accepts the 5 years, which is going to be a 2-term.
Okay.
So the period or the duration is going to be 5 years. So a term would have 5 years instead of 4 years.
So to summarize, the current situation is that if a person is elected president, they serve for 4 years and then they are eligible to run again. And if they win, they serve for another 4 years. The committee said after speaking to Ghanaians, the decision is that let's increase that to 5 years, 5 years.
Yes.
So if you go for 5 years and you are re-elected, then you go for another 5 years. Now, it's also the same with members of parliament. The committee is saying that, so it's going to run concurrent.
Yes.
So a president will now serve for 5 years, an MP will serve for 5 years.
So
they go to the polls. If they get another re-election, then they do 10 years.
Yes.
The MPs will continue. The president ends after 2 years. Unless, of course, the Supreme Court decides otherwise in the case that is currently before it. So that's on presidential term limits.
Yes.
What
Let's
else
go
do we
to
have?
the age, which qualifies you to run as president. The committee proposed 30. As of now, the age is 40 years.
Okay.
The committee proposed that the age be reduced to 30 years. Government says 35.
So the committee wanted for you to be able to run for president, to be able to run for parliament, you have to be 21 years old.
Yes.
To be president in Ghana, you have to be 40 years old. The committee said, let's reduce it to 30 years. The government said, no, we'll bring it to 35 instead of 30. So that's the position.
That's the position.
Okay.
Then
election date.
Election date. It says hold presidential election on a date in the first week of November. This is the committee. Government accepted that.
But this has always been always been in the running.
So for years now, you'd had institutions like the CDD and the IEA pushing for this particular amendment. In fact, heading towards the 2020 elections, there was a proposal that it be implemented in the 2020 elections. That could not take place, and it's not been able to be implemented in the last election. But now it's going to be part of the constitution review, where now the first week of November, instead of our regular December 7th date, would now be changed.
Okay, let's remember the president. There's a part about election petition. It says that when there's an election, you should file the petition within 14 days, and that the Supreme Court should make a decision within 30 days. Now, this is an attempt to expedite the election petition matters. Our first time seeing an election petition was in 2013. It lasted for 8 months. The second time was in 2020, which happened in 2021. It was relatively shorter. Now they want to make it 30 days, which is very good.
Yes, in this one, the plan is that the election petition is dealt with before the swearing in.
Okay.
So once you finish the elections in the first week of November, you have 14 days to do the petition. Then after the 14 days, once you file, the court has 30 days to now address the issue.
So that's why they want to bring the election closer. Very well. Presidential taxation. They said that they tax the president's salary, allowances and facilities, as well as indirect taxes, including import duties. That has been accepted in principle, subject to legislation. Then that the president's pension and gratuity, the searchable CRC reports presidential tax provision does not expressly refer to taxing presidential pensions or retirement gratuity. Okay,
so
that's something
the government
we can do.
rejected that particular proposal.
Let's talk about size of parliament. What did the committee propose?
So the committee is proposing 276 members capped. So you cannot go beyond 276. Parliament says...
So currently we have 276 MPs. The committee said we should not go beyond
it.
Government said
the government says no. We are going to take it to 300 members. The 300 members would be 276 elected and the others appointed.
Appointed by who?
They didn't say. I'm sure in the course of the conversation and reading the 90-page document which government would release, would give explanations as to how this appointment would take place.
So 276 MPs elected under the existing constituency system, 276 directly. Okay, and then the remaining ones will be appointed.
Yes, including women, people with PWDs and young people. So there are proportional appointments. So you have people, women groups bring in some people. You have PWDs bring in some people. The young people also bring in some people to make up the 300.
So women, youth, marginalized groups, and smaller parties.
Yes.
Okay. Ghanaian citizen by birth. Let's look at dual citizens.
Yes.
What does he say on that?
So on the dual citizen, it says Ghanaian citizens by birth may contest parliamentary elections without renouncing their other citizenship.
So Jachikwesin.
The case of Jachikwesin.
So it means that if
government has accepted that.
So if in the case of not Zaneto, Jachikwesin, I think, and then Sumaila Bill's case against Adamu Dramani Sakande.
Yes.
Adamu Dramani Sakande was convicted and sentenced for being a dual citizen, holding multiple British, Burkinabe, and Ghanaian. It was wrong under the law. Jachikwesin was
a Canadian
Ghanaian. And so he had to renounce his citizenship. But now they're saying that no, you can stay.
Yes, but with this dual citizenship just goes beyond this. So it says now that even the Speaker of Parliament can be a dual citizen, the Chief Justice can be a dual citizen, the Electoral Commissioner can be a dual citizen.
So our Speaker, Mr. Bagbin, for instance, could have been half Togolese, half Ghanaian.
Yes.
And he will come and do number 3 in Ghana.
Or half Sudanese.
Or half... Okay, no problem. Let me speak to one of... I'll come back. The committee has... I think there are about 6 or 5 of them who were set up to to chair this, to deal with this particular work, the Constitution Review Committee, was one of the first things that President Mahama did when he was elected. So we have Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh chairing the committee. Then we have Justice Sophia O.A. Adinyira. You remember her from the Supreme Court?
Yes, a former Supreme Court Justice.
She is a member. Charlotte Kesson Smith Ose Esquire, former
Electoral Commissioner.
Dr. Esi Ansa,
lecturer,
formerly a very good friend. I mean, not formerly, still a very good friend of ours here. Professor Kwame Kakari,
yes, of
Media Foundation
for West Africa.
Alhaji Ibrahim Tanko Amidu, Star Ghana, and then Dr. Godwin Jokoto. He's a law lecturer. He's a law lecturer, yes, and a lawyer at the University of Ghana. Okay, now their secretary, who is also a member of this committee, is Dr. Reina Akumperia. He's a lawyer
and a law lecturer.
He's joined me on the line actually. Dr. Reina, you're welcome to Eyewitness News. It's been like 100 years since I last spoke to you on the big issue.
That's true, Umaru. You know, it's been forever, but for good cause. Good cause. I hope you're doing well.
I'm well.
Right.
We're just letting our listeners know what the government has decided on this Constitution Review Committee, the work that you did.
Right.
So you finished your work and gave it to the government and you went home, correct?
Yeah, that is true.
Is that the procedure? So what happens? So what's happening now? So it means that you've done your work and the rest was for government. So government has delivered that.
Okay, so for purposes of your listeners, the Constitution Review process, I would divide it into, let's say, 3 phases. Okay, the first phase was the committee itself, setting up the committee, just like you've mentioned and identified rightly so, the membership of the committee, and the work itself of the committee, the report, the final report. Remember, there was a summary report that we committed on 22nd of December 2025. The final report we submitted on somewhere in February of 2026. That was the conclusion of the first phase, right? You know, that culminated in the work itself, the actual report. And we had, you know, submitted that to the presidency. Then the second phase was the reaction by the executive. You know that this principally the work of an executive committee. This wasn't set up as a commission. This was set up pursuant to the 78 mandate of the president. You know, the mandate the Supreme Court had earlier said so, and was it Professor Stephen Asari versus Attorney General? You know, a case that involved the setting up the commission of inquiry during the Mills administration time. You know, one of the profound things that the committee said was the fact that the president could set up committees in order to further its mandate under Article 78 of the Constitution. So this is an executive function principally. And so he set up the committee finished its work. So it is basically the work of the executive. The executive had to interpret this. Since we did the work for the committee, for the president was like our client. So the president had to now take the work and own it. The process of ownership of that process of the committee's report was for it to set up, not set up, because this was basically what the Attorney General did with a small committee as well, to study the report and look at what is feasible, what is practicable in view of all the circumstances that we have. You know, this also involves major stakeholders. So today was like a conclusion of a second phase, which is that the government now has a definite position on the recommendations of the Constitution Review Committee. And this what happened this afternoon.
Good. Now, the government has rejected some, modified some, and accepted some of your proposals. As a committee, I'm not sure you can have any grudge against the government because these are expected, correct?
Yeah, that is true. As you know, the committee is now what lawyers would say functus officio, which is that our tenure ran to an end and we have no more to add or subtract or to do anything on the report itself. It's basically what the executive wants to do. Okay.
Can you give me an idea why you thought that our president henceforth should be as young as 30 years? The government had issue with that, so they raised it to 35. what was the thinking? Is it that the committee thought so, or Ghanaians told you so?
So this question is that's a good question, but there are many reasons for this. If you look at the approach that the committee used, we analyzed the previous Constitutional Review Committee reports, the 2011 report, the Federal report. We also analyzed the 2024. Remember, President Akufo-Addo also set up a Constitutional Review Consultative Committee. There was also a report that was submitted to the President, just before he left office. That's in 2024. So our mandate was to analyze and synthesize all of those materials. What we also did as a committee, that the Constitution is basically a product of the people. It reflects what the people want, what their needs are, and the dynamics of a changing environment and our democracy. So we had to go around the entire country. We went to all the 10 regions. So we now have 16 regions, but we focused on the 10 traditional regions. So we went to all the 10 traditional regions, and we're privileged enough to be accepted. And the Queen Mothers, the chiefs, the elders, traditional leaders, the tendanes, youth groups, and varying demographic groups that participate, people with disability. These were people that participated in most of the activities that we undertook across the length and breadth of the country. And so their views were also factored in. What we also did was to engage consultants, experts, people who, by reason of the work that they do, NGOs that work on these things, constitutional matters, democracy advocates, civil rights groups, human rights groups, and all of those things. We're privileged to also invite experts from other countries, Kenya, and some other jurisdictions that have already had experience of amending their constitution or are in the process of amending the constitution. We also consulted with former presidents, speakers of parliament, former MPs, former ministers, people, that are in this, that were in close proximity, to the workings of government and our constitution. So it was a culmination of all of this, if you like, all of these views that we synthesized that then resulted in the recommendations that were made. This was the context in which the recommendations were made. And so it wasn't an expert opinion. It wasn't just some youth group or something. It was a collection of all of this, and also deliberations by the committee members themselves. As you can see, there are people that sat on the Supreme Court of Ghana, Justice Adenyira. We have people that CDD head, my big brother, Chairman Professor Henry Kwesi Prempeh, and Professor Kakare, and very, very, very learned, experienced, and committed Ghanaians. And so all the recommendations were as a result of these processes and discussions.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Okay. So for do you? I don't know whether you have a comment on the government decision to raise it to 35.
So from 40 to 30, we thought that we needed to recognize the percentage of young people in our democracy. If we were to take away the participation of young people in the democracy, not just at the executive function level, but even in voting patterns and the involved civic groups and all of that, you virtually not have a democracy in Ghana. And so we took account of this. We took account of the age that we are, the internet, the information age that we are, and how readily available information are. We took advantage. There were discussions about, we have how do you call them, media influencers or social media influencers and all of that. You could have someone at 25 years that has a following of like 30 million or 35 million. That's about the population of Ghana. And he has views. He's going to put this across. We wanted to open this up because democracy is more about participation, inclusivity rather than exclusivity. So to that extent, open them up. In any case, whether you are 30 or 35 or the difference is not much, you still have to subject yourself. And I always made the point. Umaru, I don't know if you still have me.
Yes,
I always made the point. I always made the point that if a 30-year-old man or 35-year-old man can emerge from the primaries of a major party like the MPP or NDC, accepted by the rank and file, and then to eventually be the candidate for such a major party, and to convince the rest of Ghanaians that is the best person to run the affairs of the country and is voted, then the country shouldn't wait to have such a person as a president, whether it is 30 or 35 years. But I would say that there's not much difference between 30 and 35.
Okay.
We wanted to just, as a matter of principle, I think this was stated, whether 30 or 35.
What about the vexed issue of term limits? Now, we currently have 4. You have raised it to 5 to be repeated. I recall during the last CRC, I think during Prof. Mills, I think there was, even before then, I think there was a time before President Kufuor left office, he mentioned something around raising it to 5 years for a term that you can repeat. And I think he must have mentioned, and I think he must have mentioned something around, I think he must have mentioned something around 7 years single term or 5 year double term. How did you come by this 5 year term? Because there's a view that, listen, if the man is a very wicked president, you have him for 5 years, we'll all just die. If he's a very good president, 5 years, it's okay. 5 years, okay. So to save all of us, let's make it 4. There's another counter argument that no, 4 years is not enough because the person spends the first year setting up their government. They have just 2 years, and then the last year running for the next election. So let's make it 5. Another argument said, no, make it 7 so that they don't even have to seek re-election. They'll focus. A lot of issues have come up. How did the committee conclude that it should be 5 years re-electable?
Right. I think this is a good question. Again, as you can see for yourself, this is a plurality of ideas. That's how democracy works, isn't it? But as a committee, we needed to ground our decision on specifics, and there are a number of them. You know, there's near consensus that 4 years is short. You know, the economists have argued in terms of implementation of medium and long-term projects. We have argued about continuity. We've argued about the straddling of one budget cycle to the next of it. And so all of those economic factors, I'm not an economist, but of course we consider that as well. When we look at the mean number of years that within the African sub-region, Ghana was actually one of the lowest. And that the prevailing executive tenure of office now in Africa, except Ghana and some other, we're actually in the minority. It's also 5 years. So in terms of cross-jurisdictional studies or cross-jurisdictional information that we gathered, we noticed that we were not in tandem with the rest of democratic practice across other jurisdictions. But we eventually settled on 5 for another reason. Now, so if 4 is short and you have an extra year, you can complete your projects, you can do all the economics and all of that. The people have an opportunity also to now make a decision. So it's no longer whether it was short or it was long. It is whether you had adequate time to express your policy intentions in terms of actually implementing them and putting them on the ground. And the people can determine for themselves whether this is someone that we can live with for another 5 years. And that is just going to be a very big decision. It will actually result in one term where there's overwhelming conclusion or consensus that this is a bad president. But who is bad or who is good is ultimately the citizens to determine in the voting process.
Okay. Because your committee has done its work, you've presented it to the one who assigned you. I'm not sure there's much that you can do. You cannot go to court and say that, hey, this is what we said, and you refuse it. So I think we can just let it be here. And I'll say we thank you for your services to the nation. We wish you all the best, and we see how the work moves forward, correct?
Always a pleasure, and we thank the president for seeing this through. Other previous attempts at amending our constitution didn't see the light of day for various reasons. I'm happy that we have just finished this phase and that we can build on the momentum and take Ghanaians along, especially in the other processes that are to follow, the referendum and all the work that will be done in Parliament. Also, I think that there has to be much education. Parliament committee work on these bills has to be something that should be advertised and participatory, so that it's a collective. This should take a bipartisan approach to making sure that we take every Ghanaian along in the constitutional review process.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. That's Dr. Rena Kumperia. He's He was the secretary of the Constitution Review Committee. He's a law lecturer and a lawyer who's speaking to us there. So if you're just joining us, the Constitution Review Committee submitted his work to the president. The government has studied it and came up with acceptance and rejection of some of the recommendations. So we've been talking generally about the ones relating to president and parliament, where the committee proposed that we should end parliament or cap parliament at 276 MPs. The government says, no, we'll leave it, we'll take it to 300, but some of them will be appointed. So that is one issue that we talked about. I'm here in studio with Fred Tetejab, and we've talked about dual citizenship issue and how that can be dealt with. Okay, Fred, take us forward. What else do we have?
Before we go to the judiciary, with the legislature, there was a proposal for MPs, majority and minority, to elect their leaders by secret ballot. That was not, the white paper did not say anything about it, so maybe it has been rejected. There was also an issue of the president appointing ministers ministers who are not in MPs, no, ministers who are not in parliament, so MPs would not be ministers. That also was rejected. The explanation by the Attorney General was that the president should be given the opportunity to appoint whoever he feels like working with. And then there was a constitutional amendment on votes on open record, how MPs vote and how it should be recorded. That was also very silent. Let's go to the judiciary. The judiciary's, the CLC proposed a single non-renewable 10-year term renewable term, a single non-renewable 10-year term for the Chief Justice until the age of 70.
So they are saying that if someone is made a Chief Justice, the person remains for 10 years.
Yes.
Or if they are 70 years old, then they can
go retire.
Okay.
The government accepted this particular proposal.
So 10 years compulsory retirement. Okay. Supreme Court, the size of the number of justices at the Supreme Court has been a contentious issue. The CLC dealt with that.
Yes, the CLC dealt with that. The CLC had proposed 15 in total.
15?
Chief Justice and 14 others.
Okay.
Government decided to go for 19, the Chief Justice and 18 others.
Okay, so again, context explanation per our Constitution. The Constitution says you must have a Supreme Court of 9 justices and 1 Chief Justice.
Not less than 9.
Not less than 9 and then 1 Chief Justice. Now, it did not give an upper limit.
Yes.
So now we are looking for an upper limit.
Yes.
The CRC says take it to 15. The government says no, we'll take it to 19. Currently, it's more than 19. Okay, based on the new nominations,
they have not been appointed yet,
Okay.
and there are also people who are retiring this year, so
Okay.
including the Chief Justice himself.
Okay.
So you cannot add them to it.
Okay. Then other judicial reforms, revised appointment procedures and all of that has been talked about, including the removal process.
Yes.
Okay. What else have you
So
looked at?
the issue of political parties. So the CLC says every party member in good standing by a specified cutoff date should have an equal right to vote in presidential and parliamentary elections, primaries. This particular proposal was accepted by the government. So you look at the decision by the Supreme Court, where you had 3 senior citizens going to court saying that this current delegate system we have was unconstitutional. The court upheld that particular argument and gave a directive that within 1 year, the political parties should implement a measure where every political party member in good standing will be allowed to partake in the election of presidential candidates and parliamentary candidates.
So
Accepted that.
So the decision of the Supreme Court yesterday is what has been reproduced here.
Yes, but now people say if the Supreme Court says that it's constitutional, then how are you introducing it into the Constitution?
Okay. But you see, there was no specific language that says every party member shall vote in the Constitution. The Constitution talks about universal adult suffrage, talks about association, all of that. And so that's what the Supreme Court sought to do yesterday. So the Supreme Court, as a constitutional court, would have pieced together a lot of things. And even also as a policy court, may decide that, listen, our country is getting to a stage where people are buying votes. The vote buying has become so problematic that as a policy court, we have decided that henceforth, this is a policy. It's allowed. But the Constitution doesn't have it in black and white. So I think that what they're
Yeah,
trying to
so
do now
this
is
is
to put
making
in
it
black and
written
white
for everyone
so
to
that
see.
everybody will see it. It's like
So
black is black.
Government has accepted that proposal. Also, there's the establishment of a constitutionally recognized independent registrar and regulator of political parties.
Okay. And
This
and the government has accepted, but we already
Yes.
have the Electoral Commission doing
Yes,
that.
so they are taking this particular job from the Electoral Commission. So the Electoral Commission now, as we speak, regulates political parties. Now they are giving it to an independent body, establish a political parties regulatory commission. So what the government decided to do was to change the name. So the CRC says an independent registrar and regulator of political parties.
IRRPC.
Yes, and government decided to go for Political Parties Regulatory Commission.
Okay. PPRC.
Yes.
There's something I like that I've just seen there, Fred. Constitutional direction for legislation regulating campaign periods, spending, candidate fees, disclosures, audits, and abuse of incumbency. This is where people say, oh, Ghana, as soon as we finish voting now, we start campaigning for the next election. In some jurisdictions, there's a period for campaigning and electioneering period. That's the only time you can do the campaigning election. For us, every time is campaign time. So I think they want to put this in constitution.
The idea, the objective was accepted, but the proposal in itself was not accepted to be put in the constitution. So what the government is saying is that this campaign financing will be addressed in a legislation establishing the regulator.
Okay.
So it will not be written in the constitution.
Okay. Fred, please stay. I want to speak to Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere. He's Executive Director of the African Institute of Strategic Studies and he's a political analyst as well. Doc, you're welcome to Eyewitness News. You've heard the Attorney General announce the government white paper on the CRC. Any key takeaways that you are excited about and ones that you think are not good to be in our constitution?
Well, let me say good evening to your good self and to your listeners. Obviously, there are some areas that actually, and one is the extension of the time from 4 years to 5 years. I don't know what might have informed that, but I've heard snippets of information today saying that, well, if somebody comes to power within a year and a half or 2 years now forming government, appointment here and there. I believe that any party worth its salt, if you want to come to government by now, you should have had in mind those who you want to appoint before you even win the election. So that is a very lame excuse. I think where the CRC, also review committee also got it wrong for me, is the fact that you are assuming that by extending the time, every president is going to be a good president. What if you have a very bad president and people are going to suffocate for 10 solid years if you get re-elected? Don't you think that you are creating a situation where people could easily pick up arms against government and create some kind of insurrection? We should have the opportunity to decide in a quick pace if the government is bad to kick them out. Extending the time for me is either here or there. Besides, those that we copied, those that we have adapted their processes, especially the U.S. How come they have not extended the period or the term of the president? You see, now, if you look at it from a practical point of view, it means that it's supposed to take effect in the next election. Assuming the NDC wins, that will have meant that NPP will be in opposition for another 5 years. And if there's a possibility of a sitting president then winning, that will have meant they will be in opposition for 14 to 20 years. And I think that, if you're not careful, it will create some kind of instability, if you ask me. But I see it more as theoretical than practical because there is nothing significant different from 4 years and 5 years. There's no significant difference. So that is something that I felt that, I should speak about, which I have done. The other thing too that irks me is the fact that you are proposing that members of parliament, the Chief Justice, the Speaker of Parliament, the Electoral Commissioner who have dual citizenship. Really, the person that is deciding the stability or otherwise of this country to have dual citizenship are they really considering the implications of some of these decisions?
No, I think I think president was not part. Everyone except the president and vice.
It doesn't even matter. These people are holding very powerful positions. Someone who is deciding a bill is having partial mind about the very country that is decided for. You are approving loans. You are sitting at cabinet, taking important decisions that should inure to the benefits of this country. If it is the experience that they have had from wherever they were and they have brought it here, what is so difficult about taking that kind of sacrifice so that you can be well dedicated to this country? I don't see how, in any form or shape, that keeping to the dual citizenship is the way to go at that high level, position. Besides, the experience that you have had over there that you are bringing here, I am thinking that we don't have to create a class system. And it appears that those who are taking decisions of this nature have their children out there that they think in some years to come, they're going to, definitely occupy and take up certain positions within this country. So let us pave the way for them. So those of us who have stayed here, had our children here, and so on and so forth, we will not be part of that class. I think it is a class system that they are creating. If you are occupying a sensitive position, that decision that can affect the nation's health and development, you don't have to hold a dual citizenship. Unless maybe they don't see the implication of holding something of that sort. And it's very wrong. And if TRC propose that, I am condemning that in no uncertain terms. And I'm going to go hard at them any time I get that particular opportunity.
So for you, 5 years, no. Dual citizenship, no.
Not at all. AISS, we came up with an article on this 5-year, period. If you don't mind, I can share it with your outfit. You understand? So we have written a position paper, on that. There are other things that for me, but I equally have a problem. If the Constitutional Review Committee sat and they have had 206 proposals of change, then it means that you are virtually tinkering with the entire Constitution. This is the only Constitution that has survived over 30-something years. As bad as it may be, or as imperfect, let me put it that way, as imperfect that it may be, there must be something inherently good about it that has created a situation that has survived this particular period.
Now, the issue about capping of the Supreme Court and the House of Parliament, what do you make of that? The committee proposed that the House of Parliament should remain as 276 MPs. The government said, no, we'll take it to 300. The committee said, let's keep the number of justices of the Supreme Court at 15. The government said, no, we'll take it to 19.
Well, in whichever you look at it, it will have its own pros and cons. You could see that government has been silent on somebody remaining a minister, the dichotomy that they spoke about, that Parliament should, if you are parliamentarian, shouldn't be a minister. You see, they are silent on that particular dichotomy because probably it affects those up there. Coming back to the very question that you just asked, the Parliament being capped, they say no, it should be 300, which means you are looking at a certain allowance. I think that even 276 is quite a number. We need to improve, we need to advance in technology to be able to create a situation where we can handle things technologically instead of manually. It is because we still handle things manually that is why we are thinking that we need that up. We cannot increase government expenditure on a regular basis. That only positively affects those at the upper echelons of the society. It is very wrong. And I think that whenever you create that particular situation, you are creating a problem for the future. I heard Attorney General speak about the comparison between where Address Sapo constituency used to be. Is it Dawenya or something?
Don't Kwabenya.
Kwabenya. over 100,000, and then Bolga is around 30,000. Ideally, that place, ought to be. I think that then it means that at any point in time that we witness population explosion, we are going to create, a parliamentary seat for that. But if you look at advanced countries, it is because of technological advancement. They don't need some big countries. They even have this setting. So how come we always want to pile up costs at the top level so that those at the bottom will be decided? I don't think I want to agree with government on that. At 276, if push comes to show, it shouldn't even go beyond 280. That is even if you have, any population explosion or administrative bottlenecks which you want to iron out, for which you want to create more, constancy. The Supreme Court then is a very sensitive issue. Now, my problem with capping and not capping is the fact that if people are qualified to get there, they serve their time, they have been proposed that they should be promoted to that place. And if the level is 15, the number capping is 15, how do they get promoted? It is not about who is in power and flooding the Supreme Court with more judges. It's about the inability of the appointing authority to allow someone who is duly qualified to get to the Supreme Court, all because it has been capped. So I think that we just have to use discretionary power given us in a very decorous and decent way.
All right.
So capping and not capping has its own.
One last issue I want your view on before you take leave of us: the reduction of the age limit or age qualification. Currently, under our law, you cannot be president unless you are 40 years old. The committee proposed that age should be brought down to 30. So that if you are 30, you can run for president. The government has rejected that, or rather modified that by saying we'll make it 35. We are a young population, so they thought, let's give the young people the chance. For those who are ages, they would say, no, a child cannot run a president. But those who believe that young people, this is their time, they would say that 30 is in order. What do you make of the middle ground that the government has taken at 35?
You see, Mario, as a young one, you don't have to be president in order to be assessed for it. All of us can be president at the same time. This reduction and the middle line approach is neither here nor there. Realistically, look at our education system. You have to be, by age 12, you will have done class A. You add 3, that is JHS, you are talking about 15 years. SHS plus 3, you are talking about, 18? And then you do 4 years in university, you are looking about 22. You do a national service of 1 year, 23, you are only left with 3 years. So 7 years to become president. To become president, you must be a role model. You must have led a certain life of emulation. What will a boy get about 7 years to 30 years would have been able to do? What kind of life would that person would have been able to do? Especially in this type of economy that we are running, that you propose 30 years just because we have a youthful population. Even the capital that the government went for, I think that maybe it is a panicky situation. Besides 40, even that 40 is not everybody. We have led a life that will be worthy of emulation, that will have the competency, right, to be able to file and contest for presidency. And you see, what we are proposing also that, so you must equally consider the value system of the population. What our value system say? You see, so the value system is the one that we spoke about, that the Avle to think that a 30-year-old boy, is too young to run the affairs of this country. Okay. Looking at policy, looking at security, looking at governance, economy, and someone who has not had experience in life. There isn't anything experiential about that, and you think that that person at 30, right, should have the opportunity to become president. At least we shouldn't always be looking up to the Western world as our model. we should at any point in time look inward, Africanize most of our policies and our ideals, and keep our value system, because that is what identifies us.
Thank you so much.
Distinguishes us from everybody else.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. That's Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ochi. He's Executive Director of the Africa Institute of Strategic Studies, and he's also a political analyst. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. I am Umaru Sanda Amadou. We'll return, because I still have Fred Tete Jabano. We'll try and get a few more highlights. Then we'll talk about Sedina Tamaklu, who has been freed today by the Court of Appeal, which said that her conviction was wrong. The conviction by the High Court was wrong. Please stay.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
Introducing Ghana's leading pay-as-you-copy photocopier leasing company. Lease an A4, A3, heavy-duty or production machine and pay for only the copies made, or design your own payment plan. Simple and tietia. That's not all. Incredibly, toners, repairs, maintenance, follow-me printing, centralized tracking all come free of charge. Remember, financial prudence is the name of the game. Folks, forget about the expensive gimmicks and be smart. Join the hundreds of satisfied clients across all the 16 regions and every sector of the economy and save over 60% of your printing costs. Visit us at www.valexlease.com or call 0244-644048. Be prudent and lease a copier. Terms and conditions apply. Valex Lease is a wholly owned Ghanaian company. Valex Lease, affordable document management solutions.
You know that feeling when you're getting ready for work. Your shirt is still crumpled and the iron is just starting to warm up. Or you're late for the wedding and now about to blow dry your hair. Or you have just stocked up meat for the cold store and then suddenly, light off. Life just keeps getting paused. But what if your roof, yes, your roof, could keep things running in your homes and businesses? With EcoBank ASAP, you can switch to solar now by getting a loan to buy solar power systems with no upfront cost and easy repayment. Power your life through EcoBank's vetted solar vendors and lower your power bills over time.
Take back your power with EcoBank ASAP. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Ufie betumi adani baby a upebia. Betumi adani stadium.
What a strike!
Enough akwa yebu TV. Any computer game wo. Aha! Yenko. Atoda. Betumi adani classroom.
Madam, me patcho menti ase.
Yo, yes am fasubio. Ni ewo he na wonti ase no.
Nini na.
Betumi adani office.
Aha. Orders no ahina ye ready. Okay, Mundi can fanko East Legon.
Betumi po. Eswa ye fa ko a. Ye nhwehwemu wo.
Daddy, e dia ne big bang theory.
Chain, mami bisa chat GPT.
Ubetimi amofie adani baby a opese eyibia efise emfa ho ni ne opese oye wo fie MTN fiber betimi aboa amwoye na 500 Mbps unlimited internet ani bo no form a free 299 Ghana cedis echo for MTN fiber bra fie ana waduma mu ede for my MTN app no so ana sebo *5057#. But check fiber availability no so ana say number e wo je no na we say fiber broadband e wo baby a wo ti no a na tobi ene ya
MTN.
Channel 1 TV is live on DSTV, GoTV, and HD+. On DSTV, find us on Channel 363. On GoTV, we're on Channel 117. And on HD+, get us on Channel 108. On a digital TV, run a new search. But take note that without an antenna, you cannot access Channel 1 TV. Channel 1 TV can be accessed on any free-to-air digital box, like the DSTV and HD+ boxes. Channel 1 TV, telling your story, empowering change.
Let your voice be heard on Eyewitness News on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag Eyewitness News.
You're welcome back. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. I am Umaru Sanda Amadou. Tonight we're looking at a number of stories, including the decision of the Court of Appeal to set Sedina Tamaklu, formerly of Maslok, free But we're also looking at the Constitution Review Committee's report and the position of the government. I'm in studio with Fred Tete Jabano, ahead of current affairs production. Fred, the vexed issue of DCEs, whether they should be elected or not, what has the government said in relation to that particular subject matter? Should we still continue appointing DCE or selecting them?
So generally with the election of DCEs and MMDCEs, the CRC proposed the election. Government has accepted that election. Now the issue is the mode of elections. So the CRC proposed a direct popular election designated in some votes in some districts. What government says is that, yes, they accept the elections, but they are going to do it in this way. The president will nominate 5 people. The 5 people will go through vetting. After the vetting, 3 people will be shortlisted. The 3 people should include a woman. Then the 3 people are presented for elections. So this is what government has put out. So the CRC was asking for everybody to be given an opportunity to contest. But government says no, the president would appoint 5 people, nominate 5 people, go through the process, 3 are shortlisted, and there would be an election out of the 3. On the issue of partisanship, they say no, it's not going to be a partisanship election. It's just going to be nomination. So it cancels all other proposals. The executive's proposal cancels all other proposals, whether it should be partisan or non-partisan. This new proposal by the executive cancels everything.
Okay. Let me speak to an expert in this field. Dr. Richard Fiadrimo is president of the Chamber of Local Government. So you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Yeah, thank you very much, and greetings to all your cherished listeners.
Can you help me and my listeners make sense of this proposal? For me, it sounds a bit complex. I mean, the simple thing many people have been asking for is that I want to vote for my DCE so that I hold my DCE accountable. But from what I'm reading, it sounds as if I would vote for my DCE, but that DCE was imposed on me by the president. And we are trying to take away the president's power of appointing a DCE so that the DCE is not accountable to the president, but rather accountable to the public. This procedure that is being proposed, and I think it was part of the previous CRC recommendation, which never saw the light of day. Is it the best way to put the local government authority in the hand of the people?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we also have to accept the fact that if we just allow it as we elect assembly members, we are going to have a very unwieldy number of people that we have to contend with when it comes to election of MMDCs. You will get to see, if you really recall, the current MMDCs who are appointed, you go to certain places, about 40 people applied and had to be pruned down to 3 for the president to select 1. So with that at the background, I believe that is the reason why the government has come in to give a certain criteria to nominate 5 people. They go to the Public Services Commission, then 3 will be brought out, and then they will go to the people for election. What Ghanaians, I believe, wanted, and we still want today, is the fact that we should be given the opportunity to elect our MMDCs through a universal adult suffrage. And once that is done, they will be accountable to us and not be accountable to the president. Whoever the president nominates, or the 3 people that will go to the people for election, whoever wins, the president cannot remove that person from office. So I honestly do not think that the fact that you are nominated by the president cannot interfere, because now the people elected you and the president cannot remove you from office. It is the very same people through the law who be revised. I think 75% cannot remove you through an election process again organized by the Electoral Commission. So I do not think that there's going to be any interference coming from the president, especially so when the power to appoint and to remove has been taken away from the president. The only power given to the president now is to nominate. And once the nomination is done, even the Public Service Commission has what it takes to reduce the president's number to 3. So you can see that the president's powers is not absolute. Even the Public Service Commission can reduce it to 3 and allow the 3 to go and face the electorate or the voters for them to vote. So I honestly do not see any interference coming from any president of the day.
So you actually like this idea?
Yeah, we like the idea because we have been craving and fighting for the fact that we want to have the opportunity to elect our own MMDCs.
But why don't you push rather for a full autonomy? Because for me, this sounds like an autonomy with a restriction or a constraint. Why don't we just say that it is time for DCEs? Let's elect them alongside MPs and presidents or alongside assembly members. I vote for my assembly member, my unit committee chairman, and I also vote for my DCE. And I shouldn't be interested in who appointed that person. Why must the president have a hand in my DCE? Is it because if that doesn't happen, the president will not be responsible for sending funds and development there? Because elsewhere, I mean, those who run the federal system, the governor runs against the president's party or interest, and the governor may win, and they may run their affairs as they deem fit. And if the district assembly's common fund says give the assembly so much, you are obligated to give it to them. Why are we, controlling who should be elected? That's my question.
Yeah, thank you very much. What I want us to also appreciate is the fact that Ghana is a unitary state, and we cannot completely wear the hands of the president as far as our local governance system is concerned. And what the law has just allowed the president to nominate 5 people. So where is the influence of the president again? These 5 people go to the Public Service Commission, and the 3 will be given opportunity for the elected to vote for them. And once that person is there at the behest of the people and not at the behest of the president.
But the Public Services Commission you talk about is headed by who? Appointed by who?
Appointed by the president. Unless you want to make the argument that anybody the president appoints automatically does things in a very partisan manner. Today, as we speak, the Director General of Kapua, ECG, and all those places, they are appointed by the president. But can you tell me that you go to Kapua and the business they do is NDC activity? The answer is no. All that we are saying is that we have been given the opportunity to elect. Once we elect, we are the people who can now remove the person we elect from office, not the president. So if you cannot appoint and you cannot also disappoint, then why is your influence again? The president, for it not to be unruly, I believe there is the reason why the president was given the opportunity to nominate the 5. And that once that is done, the president's work comes to an end. The rest is with the PSC, and the rest is with the voters. Okay. I agree that once the president appointed, maybe they are all likely to be NDC today because John Mahama is NDC. That agreement I can understand. But the fact that the people have been given opportunity to be voted for, the people who are elected know where they got their power from. The president cannot make anybody chief executive in Ghana today if this law comes into force and we are voting.
What about the political side? Are we not playing the ostrich where we are saying that it's not partisan and yet the president appoints? That's partisan, isn't it?
No, it's very interesting. You see, if that is also the argument, then it means the president sitting down there is not working for Ghana, he's working for NDC. And I don't think that is the issue. The fact that he was elected through a partisan process, he is not the president of Ghana and he's expected to work and act as such. So whoever he appoints also works for the state, and for the nation. So whoever is also nominated and is elected now works for the local government authority that he or she is going to be elected. So clearly, you can argue that all the 5 people brought to trade will be NDC today because John Mahama is president. Tomorrow, if NPP is in office, they will all be NPP people. But the people who voted with the lens of a non-partisan person who didn't come on the ticket of the NDC or didn't come on the ticket of the NPP. As we speak, when those 3 people are sent to their respective MMDs for them to be elected, NDC people are there, NPP people are there, the base people are there. So they will all be given the opportunity to vote if they really want to vote. So once the person is elected, he or she knows that the power that he now has is coming from the people and not from the president.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
That's Dr. Richard Fiadumo. He is president of the Chamber of Local Government. We're talking about the Constitution Review Committee's report and the position of the government. There's another one, the Attorney General and how it should be dealt with. The Constitution Review Committee proposed that remove corruption prosecutions from the Attorney General, as in take away corruption issues from the Attorney General and require a court permission before the Attorney General can discontinue a criminal prosecution. Now, under our law, any case before the the court can be withdrawn by the Attorney General through what's called nolli prosequi. They don't need anybody's permission. The Attorney General doesn't need anybody's permission. Now, the CRC is saying that the Attorney General should get the permission of the court before it does that particular withdrawal. And also that the Attorney General should not be prosecuting corruption, and that should be left for maybe perhaps the Office of Special Prosecutor. The government rejected this particular position or proposal. So that's on that Attorney General. Now, on the issue of Attorney General and Minister of Justice, how to deal with the two, the Constitution Review Committee said that an Attorney General who sits in cabinet may struggle to independently prosecute members of the same government. What did the government say in response? The government says, amend Article 88(1) to separate the two offices. The Attorney General will no longer be a Minister of State or cabinet member, while a separate Minister of Justice will oversee the justice sector. The government's alternative reform is what is accepting. So the government is saying that let's split the Attorney General's department separately, make it a state institution, independent, and then have a minister in charge of justice who may go to cabinet. So that is a proposal. On the functions of the Attorney General alone, if the split happens, the CRC proposal reduce the Attorney General's authority over corruption prosecution. What did the government say? The government says the Attorney General remains the Republic's principal legal advisor and retains the state's prosecutorial authority. So it's not going to accept the proposal from the CRC. The Attorney General still has oversight over all prosecutions of IOCO, OSP, and everybody else. Okay. On the security of tenure and independence, the Constitution Review Committee said we should strengthen independent prosecution through a separate anti-corruption institution. What did the government say? The government said, give the Attorney General the same terms and conditions of service as a justice of the Supreme Court to protect the office from executive interference. So this is where the Attorney General is decoupled from the Ministry of Justice. Make the Attorney General equal to a justice of the Supreme Court so that you can protect and have a fixed term of office or a protected term of office. So that is it on the Constitution Review Committee, the proposals and what the government has accepted from the recommendations and what the government has rejected and what the government has modified. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. We are coming to you from our studios in Accra. I am Umaru Sanda Amado. I'll take a break. When we return, I'll bring you news summaries, and then we'll talk about Sidna Tamaklu. Now, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal has overturned her conviction and sentence, and the Attorney General has gone to court saying that, the Attorney General said to appeal, but even before that, it has filed for a stay of execution. I'll explain what that means when we come back.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
These days, some mattresses are being made from all kinds of unsafe materials that are not fit for sleeping surfaces. These materials may be cheap, but they can be harmful to your health. If you haven't slept well, you cannot work and think well, and you are ultimately putting your health at risk, which can cause you a lifetime discomfort and chronic pain. As responsible citizens, we should invest in safe, durable, and certified mattresses. Latex Foam remains the tried and tested brand we all love for almost 60 years now. They offer you unmatched quality and durability for every Ghanaian home. Talk to them on 0302-231-155 in Accra and 03220-29365 in Kumasi for all your inquiries, or walk into any of their outlets nationwide for your preferred choices. Do not settle for less. Go for quality, but Latex Foam, or else you don't do yourself. Latex Foam, your partner for life.
Frustrated with outdated banking experiences? You deserve an app that makes your life easier, not harder. Say hello to the CBG mobile app, your new cool way to handle everything banking. With biometric security, lightning fast mobile money access, and one-touch bill payments, banking has never been this smooth. Stop imagining when you can live a life where your entire banking world is in your pocket, ready whenever you need it. No stress, no fuss. Don't settle for less. Experience a more superior, convenient way of banking today with the CBG mobile app. Banking made cool, fast and secure. Welcome to the good life. CBG. We stand with you.
You know that feeling. A hospital bill that arrives out of nowhere, A diagnosis you weren't prepared for. A system that seems designed to confuse you and costs that keep climbing. And the stress of not knowing if you are protected. Eden isn't lost. Eden Care was created to give it back to you. Eden Care is health insurance made for everyday family life. With Eden Care, getting healthcare is easy and you are backed by a trusted insurance partner with years of experience. No confusing terms, just complete protection for your entire family. Step back into peace. Step into experience you can rely on. Reach out right now at 059-692-1844 and choose Eden Care today. Eden Care is brought to you by Acacia Health Insurance, a member of the Enterprise Group.
Let your voice be heard on Eyewitness News on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag Eyewitness News.
Yeah, welcome back. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. We are coming to you from our studios in Accra. I am Umaru Sandamad. One of the big stories we are looking at is the Constitution Review Committee's work, the proposal, and what exactly the government has said. Lots of you are talking. I have a message from Hassan Ayerga, who is the leader of the APC, and he says 5 years term is a big no. Dual citizenship is a big no. All the minority parties were not consulted or engaged. 5 years term, a big no. Even more concerning, all the minority political parties were neither consulted nor engaged in the process. Constitutional or electoral reforms of this magnitude should be inclusive, transparent, and built on broad national consensus, not decided without the participation of all key stakeholders. Any proposal that affects the governance of our country must reflect the views of all political parties and the Ghanaian people. 40 years is okay for the age limit. 35 years is a big no. So that's Hassan Ayerga, leader of the APC. We have more from you on Talkback later on the show. But now we have news summaries, and Fafa Melody Portifer from the Citi Newsroom is seated before me. Hello, Fafa. How are you?
I'm very well, Sanda.
Everything under control?
Everything is fine.
Nice. Please give us a news summaries.
Well, in education, the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, has attributed the reduction in the number of cancelled results in this year's Basic Education Certificate Examination (BEC) to measures introduced to curb examination malpractice. WAEC has released the 2026 BEC result with 467 subject results cancelled and 105 candidate results withheld pending investigation. Speaking to Citi News, the head of public affairs at WAEC, John Kapi, said the council has begun investigations into the withheld results.
Kelly, we have released the provisional results of the BEC for school candidates 2026. So I believe that a lot of people would have picked up the message. They would have also sensitized their people very well. And so I would say that our message has gone down quite well with the people. We think that we could still do better, but for now, that is the reason I can give for the decline in the number of entire results cancelled. So for these about 2,722 candidates whose results have been withheld, they were detected in the course of marking, and we are going to scrutinize their scripts, and if we are convinced that something untoward happened, then we'll go ahead and cancel, and if the evidence is not strong enough, we'll release the results.
That was the head of public affairs at the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, John Kapi. Meanwhile, the executive director of Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, has called for increased resources to be made available to WAEC to enable the council to conduct investigations into examination malpractice more quickly and efficiently.
It is not just a mirror. It's not a complete mirror of what we see on the ground. On the ground, we see even higher levels of examination malpractice going on. Except that our capacity to detect all is always limited because of the high number of schools and centers that participate in the BEC compared to WASI. And so we will continue to encourage WAEC, as much as practicable, use their software to detect similarities in answering and collusion and all that, and then apply the rule as it should. We'll also continue to urge the government to resource WAEC so that they're able to deploy more and more of their officers to every center, so that we don't rely on teachers who have an interest in the outcome of examination to do position in many of the centers. I think that if we do this, we should be strengthening systems to prevent or detect even more many of our cases of international practice that go undetected in our schools.
That was the Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare. Now, Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman has called for reforms to Africa's pension systems to provide retirement security for informal sector workers excluded from pension schemes. Speaking at the 7th Annual Conference of the Africa Pension Supervisors Association, Professor Opoku-Agyeman says Africa's labor market requires pension systems that consider the realities of informal employment.
For decades, pension systems around the world were designed around formal employment, relationships characterized by relatively predictable incomes and regular contributions. Yet Africa's labor market is far more diverse and dynamic. Many citizens move between occupations over the course of their working lives and therefore earn irregular incomes. Many combine multiple sources of livelihood or work outside traditional employment structures altogether. These realities require us to reimagine old age security by designing systems that recognize the realities of informal work and create pathways through which workers in the informal sector can participate meaningfully in retirement savings and protection schemes.
Professor Opoku-Agyeman also urged governments and regulators to strengthen pension systems to ensure more workers retire with financial security.
Africa remains the youngest continent in the world, and this demographic profile continues to be one of our greatest strengths. But that does not mean that Africans are not aging. Current projections suggest that the number of Africans aged 60 years and above could exceed 226 million by 2050. What are our plans for them? Yet pension systems across the continent currently cover less than 1/5 of the workforce. Nearly 85% of workers are largely outside formal retirement protection.
That was Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. Now moving on, the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service has reaffirmed its commitment to combating human trafficking as Ghana marks 20 years of the Human Trafficking Act. The CID says while Ghana has made progress in tackling the crime, traffickers are increasingly using social media and fake job offers to lure and exploit vulnerable people. Speaking at a commemorative event, Director General of the CID, COP Lydia Yakodonko, called for stronger collaboration among government, civil society, the media, and the public to combat human trafficking.
We are also witnessing emerging forms of cyber-enabled trafficking involving online investment schemes, digital recruitment platforms, romance scams, and transnational online network marketing schemes. These criminal networks exploit unemployment, economic hardship, and the desire of young people for better opportunities. This changing threat requires a changing law enforcement response. The future of anti-trafficking enforcement must combine traditional policing with digital intelligence, cyber investigations, financial investigations, data analytics, digital forensics, responsible use of artificial intelligence, and international information sharing. The Ghana Police Service continues to strengthen these capabilities to identify victims, trace offenders, preserve digital evidence, and dismantle organized trafficking networks.
COP Lydia Yakodonko is the Director General of the Criminal Investigation Department of the Ghana Police Service.
And that was a Fafa Melody, Motofe of the City Newsroom, bringing us news summaries here on Eyewitness News, which is live across Ghana on a number of affiliate stations, including Adwenpa 100.7 FM in Takwa in the Western region, on Beach 105.5 FM and Sky 93.5 FM, both in Takrady in the Western region. In the Bono region, in Sunyani, we are just returned from Greener FM, our partner station on the campus of University of Energy and Natural Resources, UNE, on 95.9 FM. Also in the Ashanti region in Kumasi on Focus 94.3 FM, on Orange 107.9 FM, both in Kumasi. In Volta region in Tajevu on Revival 99.3 FM, and in Hohe on VOV Radio 95.7. In the Northern region on Radio Bimbila 91.9 FM in Bimbila. In the Upper East region on Quality 88.7 FM in Garu, on Gumzang 90.1 FM in Tongo. In the Upper West region on Tongsong 97.3 FM in Wa. In the Northeast region on Radio Jimbali 107.3 in Jimbali. Eyewitness News is live across the world on YouTube. Look for Citi FM. On Facebook, just look for Citi FM and follow the discussion there. You can also send us messages. Later we'll be reading on Talkback 0539 986 996 0539 986 996. Or go on X, which used to be called Twitter, and mention my handle at Umaru Sanda or at City973. Let's talk about Sedina Tamaklo Christine Ationu now. She's a former CEO of the Micro and Small Loan Center, Maslock. She was convicted and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment in 2024. Today, the Court of Appeal, empaneled, or having 3 members as a panel, all of them unanimously agreed that she ought not to have gone to jail, and so she's free to go home. Hansen Ajiman is our court affairs or legal affairs correspondent. He's in studio with me. Hansen, you're welcome.
Thank you, Sanda.
Now, just to try and get the background, she was convicted and sentenced in 2024. She was convicted in absentia because she was in the United States of America. She has been there all this while until a month or 2 ago, where she returned to this country, and we were told by the state actors that she had been handed over to the officials of the prison service. Now, she had appealed the sentencing, 2 years ago?
Yes.
And now the decision has come down. Talk to us about what happened in court today.
So in court today, the judges then delivered a summary of the judgment.
Was she in court herself?
She was not in court, but her lawyers were in court.
Okay.
Essentially to say that the prosecution was unable to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt, and that the trial judge misdirected herself when it comes to the presumption of innocent until proven guilty, and indicated that the decision of the court will be made available by close of day. We have since received a copy of a document that looks like the judgment of the Court of Appeal. I say so because at this time the copy that we've received is not the authenticated copy from the registry of the Court of Appeal, but essentially detailing the reasoning for which the 3-member panel decided to acquit and discharge Sedina Tamaklo.
So explain it for the layman. She was convicted after having been charged with 70-something counts?
78 counts.
78 counts of
including stealing, causing financial loss to the state,
misappropriate or dishonestly
stealing, causing financial loss to the state, causing loss to public property, willfully causing financial loss to the state, as I've already said, improper payment of public funds, unauthorized commitment, and money laundering.
So she appealed all of these and said that she shouldn't have been jailed, or she agrees that she should be jailed, but the years were too many. She reduced. What was she asking the court to do?
She went basically on the ground that first, the charge sheet in itself was defective.
What does that mean?
What it means is that she's saying that if you look at the charge sheet, which is what was used to start the entire proceedings, on the basis of the particulars that were given on the charge sheet, she could not tell what exactly she had done to be able to plead appropriately and to file a defense appropriately to it. Then she also moved further to say that the evidence did not support the decision of the trial court, which is the High Court. She also sought to say that the judge erred in determining that she committed the offenses of stealing, of willfully causing financial loss to the state, of causing damage to public property, among the other offenses that she was charged with.
The prosecution, which now became the respondent in this petition, disagreed and said that she should be kept in there. What were some of the arguments that the prosecution or the state made?
The prosecution's argument was that they have discharged their burden, and the fact that they had discharged their burden up to the level of submission of no case, and she was supposed to have come in to make a defense. She decided not to make her defense, and if you take even the defenses that she had indicated through cross-examination, if you put them together with the case of the prosecution, they were of the firm belief that they had proven the case, and that even if some of the charges were defective, as Sedin Attah-Mensah was claiming, it does not amount to one that will lead to an acquittal or an acquittal and a discharge. But however, after the 3-member panel looking at both arguments, decided that yes, the state was unable to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt.
There was another argument put forth by the state that she was a fugitive of justice and so she should be disregarded. The appeal itself should even be disregarded. Can you tell us what the court said about that?
The court essentially said that if you look at the criminal procedure of Ghana, when a person is convicted, that person has 30 days, a right of appeal within 30 days. If you don't file the appeal within 30 days, then you must write or apply to the court for permission to now appeal. The court is saying that right comes in itself immediately you are convicted.
It doesn't
matter where you are, whether you participated in the in the trial or not. And as a result of that, dismiss that preliminary objection by the state.
Now, what has the Court of Appeal done, or what's the effect of what the Court of Appeal has done? Does it mean that there shouldn't have been a trial in the beginning, which is what the judge should not, so the judge should not have entertained it at all? Or they are saying that, yeah, we have reviewed what the High Court judge has done and we think that she didn't do a good job? How do we interpret this for the layman to understand what happened at Atieno?
Per my understanding, the Court of Appeal did two things clearly. The first was to say that there are certain charges that were not drafted properly. And so the charges relating to willfully causing financial loss to the state. And if you look at the charge sheet, the offenses relating to stealing and conspiracy to steal were from count 1 to count 35. And then 36 to 68 were offenses relating to willfully causing financial loss to the state. For the offenses related to willfully causing financial loss to the state, the court was of the opinion that those counts did not in themselves provide enough information for the accused person to have mounted a defense or to have even pleaded to that case, because if you compare it to the decision in the Ernest Thompson case, enough particulars were not given. Then it went further to determine, and some of these, it then went further to determine the issues of stealing, and said that certain essential ingredients were missing, and also certain evidentiary issues were not properly dealt with. For instance, when it comes to issue relating to the 500,000 cedis, one of the alleged schemes at the time was that she had given a loan of 500,000 cedis to a rural savings and loans company
And
called
collected it into
Obatampa. Obatampa, upon becoming aware of the interest rate, said they couldn't hold on to the money, so they wanted to return it. Then, according to the prosecution at the time, they asked that it should not be paid to the bank, but it should be returned in cash. That it was returned, and that she wrote a letter accepting that she has received the money. But that letter was not the original letter. And during her investigation caution, when she was given her investigation caution statement, she said she does not recognize writing that particular letter, but the signature looks like hers. The Court of Appeal says that brought an issue of authenticity of that particular document, and the prosecution did not lead any evidence to authenticate that document was actually coming from her.
Okay.
And the trial judge and then the 3-member panel then faulted the trial judge for now shifting the responsibility on her to show that was not her signature, and saying that the burden of proof should always be on the prosecution, and it should not be shifted just because an allegation has been made. There was also an evidentiary issue about the use of a certain document when it comes to there was also one scheme which had to do with training with for certain districts and regional offices, that the prosecution claimed that 1.7 million had been approved, but 1.8 million was disbursed for the purposes of those trainings, but only about 1,300 was actually paid. And that when they contacted the various regional directors, they indicated that no such training happened.
Okay.
The Court of Appeal found a problem with that evidence because those regional directors themselves, they didn't come in to testify
in court.
And the court said the statements of the regional directors that were brought in amounted to hearsay, which did not meet any of the exceptions as far as hearsay rules are concerned. Essentially, to say that those statements are statements that are made out of court, offered for the truth of which it was offered. And so for some of these reasons, the court then came to a conclusion that the charges of stealing, the elements that ought to have been proved, were not proven. And the other offenses, some of them came out of or flow directly from stealing. So having stolen public funds, then you might have caused financial loss to the state.
So since the stealing failed, then everything else. Okay. So the effect of what has happened is that she goes home as a free person. Who are the justices who sat on this? Because it was one judge who sentenced her, right?
Yeah,
2 years ago.
Justice Ifeasewa Bocha, who is currently at the Court of Appeal.
And those who decided today are also at the Court of Appeal.
At the Court of Appeal. Justice Emmanuel Ankama.
Okay.
And Justice Samuel Obeng Diewu. And Justice Samuel Senyor Amedahe.
Okay. Now we know also that the Attorney General has taken some steps. The Attorney General does not agree with the court's decision today.
Yeah, even before the full ruling will come out, the AG served notice that it was going to appeal against the decision of the Court of Appeal, and also file a stay of execution on the decision of the Court of Appeal. As of this evening, we have received an application that has been filed by the Office of the Attorney General for stay of execution of the judgment pending appeal.
Which means that don't let her go home yet. Wait until you determine. So they are going to the Supreme Court. Attorney General is going to the Supreme Court. That's the logical place they can go to.
The motion for stay the appeal will go to the Supreme Court.
So the Attorney General intends to go to the Supreme Court.
But the motion of stay is going to the Court of Appeal.
Thank you so much. Hansen Ajiman is our legal affairs correspondent. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. Let's do another story that we have eyes on. We are told that as many as 11 pupils are currently suffering wounds, or they are critically injured after a tipper truck rammed into their school bus. Alex Kingnati is a member of the fire service communication team, and fire service usually is called to scenes of this nature. Mr. Nati, you're welcome to Eyewitness News. What can you confirm to us about that accident? We're told it happened on the N1 highway. What's the situation now? Hello, Alex. Alex, can you hear me? I'm afraid I have lost Alex Kingnati. I'll bring him back on the line hopefully after this.
Let your voice be heard on Eyewitness News on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag Eyewitness News.
Channel 1 TV airs live on DSTV, GoTV, and HD+. On DSTV, find us on Channel 363. On GoTV, we're on Channel 117. And on HD+, get us on Channel 108. On a digital TV, run a new search. But take note that without an antenna, you cannot access Channel 1 TV. Channel 1 TV can be accessed on any free-to-air digital box, like the DSTV and HD+ boxes. Channel 1 TV, telling your story, empowering change.
Everybody they sell, but your shop they empty.
Where's my report?
Bro, month no end yet. But see, your pocket stop they take. Another emergency for the house.
Come and get ideas. Ideas go kill them.
Another idea, another mark time. No capital to start. For some people, this silence no be peaceful. It be money matter.
With bills, there's no need for silence. From my emergency loans to salary loans to working capital loans and startup loans, Bills has you covered.
Apply with your Ghana card today. Call 0596 920 833 or 0302 200 390. Bills, financing your needs. T's and C's apply.
Looking for engineering excellence you can trust? Welcome to Left Signature Limited, driving progress through technology and engineering excellence. From expert electrical engineering design, installation, power systems, renewable energy, automation and control, to reliable data center and managed services, power infrastructure, network connectivity, server virtualization, cloud integration and data security, and cutting-edge software development, custom business applications, web and mobile apps, cloud and DevOps solutions. Integrity, safety, accountability, teamwork. That's the Left Signature promise. And now, introducing the Left Power app. Request for our services anytime, anywhere. Available on the Play Store, App Store, and on the web. Ready to power your success? Choose Left Signature Limited. Visit www.leftsignature.com. Call +233 256 111 811. Left Signature Limited. Engineering excellence for a connected future.
Let your voice be heard on Eyewitness News on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag Eyewitness News.
Yeah, welcome back. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. Let me just read for you the story we have on the accident. Our website, citinewsroom.com, says, Jowulu tipper truck crashes into school bus, 11 children injured. Story by Isaac Apiakobi says that a tipper truck has crashed into a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter bus carrying about 11 lower primary school children on the Jowulu Accra Mall stretch, leaving several school children injured. The Ghana National Fire Service, in a video shared on Facebook, confirmed that the crash involved a tipper truck and the school bus, which was reportedly transporting children returning from an excursion. Eyewitnesses confirmed to Citi News that one child is currently in ICU at the police hospital, while the remaining 10 children are receiving treatment at the 37 military hospital. Assistant Divisional Officer of the Fire Service, Alex Kingnati of the Fire Service, said the tipper truck rammed into the rear of the Sprinter bus, although the exact cause of the accident had yet to be established. So that is the story on the accident on the N1 highway. Let's go to the central region. There's another story we have eyes on. Is not the death of Kantanka, but rather what's happening after his death. What's happening with his funeral. There's a conflict between his daughter and his son. Akwesi Addo is our central regional correspondent. He's joining me from Gomwa Mpota, where all the action appears to be happening. Akwesi, there was supposed to be a funeral today. There was an injunction. The funeral was supposed to go on regardless. What's the status or the situation now?
Okay, thank you, Umaru, and good evening to our listeners. So let me mention that the funeral ceremony has already been held despite the earlier injunction granted by the Accra High Court yesterday. And let me mention that despite the delay in preparations, everything has been done successfully, and all proceedings came to an end just about some 35-40 minutes ago.
Everything coming to an end would include the body being taken to the cemetery to be buried. Has that happened?
So, according to the family and members of the Christo Association, it was a request by the late or deceased Apostle Emeritus Kodjosafo Kantanka that a museum should be built for him where his remains will be laid. And so in the morning when we arrived here, there was a bit of skepticism among church members as well as patrons of this burial ceremony with regards to the whereabouts of the body or the remains of the late apostle, because we had heard that some persons or the other party had taken siege of the body. But we later realized, or we were informed by close sources, that the remains were actually brought to Gomwa Mpota about 3 days ago, and it was being kept at the city founded by the late apostle. And so when the funeral proceedings formally came to an end here, we had the traditional leader who represented the Asante Hinopinfo Tutu. So that is the Azekinzema chief, leading the former Domikabenya MP Sarah Adjasafo and 5 other children of the late apostle to go and then have a view of the body, which is being kept in a designated room at the Automobile Center. And judging from the demeanor of the people who entered into the museum, you could clearly tell that indeed the remains were there. Because everybody who entered came out crying. And I personally heard one of the children calling her children. So these are supposed to be the grandchildren of the late Apostle Kodjosafo, that they should come and view the remains of their grandfather. And if you have been attending Akan funerals, you would certainly know that it is part of tradition and custom that every person, mostly the close relatives, would be allowed to have a view of the remains of the prominent deceased person.
Okay, you have not seen the body, just for the record. You have not entered that room.
Exactly, okay. But from close sources, they are telling us that the remains are already here at the Mpota in the central region.
Now, this funeral that was done today was by Adjasafo and others, except or excluding the brother that she has disagreement with, correct?
Exactly so.
So he was not there today.
Exactly. So to put on record, we had the arrival of Sarah Adjasafo to the funeral grounds just around 3 p.m. And then the other siblings had arrived around 1:30 to thereabout. But they left the funeral grounds and then later came back with their elder sister, that is Sarah Joasafo.
Okay.
So we had all the children of Apostle Kojo here, except the individual who is in sharp disagreement with Sarah Joasafo and the other siblings.
That should be a coffiner, correct?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. That's Akwesi Ado. He's our Central Regional Correspondent. This is Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. It's now time for the latest in the world of business, and Nashika Caesar is in studio. Nashika, please take it up.
Right now, the cost of several key construction materials have declined per the Construction and Small Business Inputs basket of the Channel 1 Market Price Barometer. Prices for cement, iron rods, paint and plywood all fell during the period, signaling a moderation in building input cost after months of elevated prices. Here's more from the barometer.
Most notable declines were recorded in cement prices. A 50-kilogram bag of locally produced 32.5R cement fell from 105 Ghana cedis in June to 96 Ghana cedis in July, while 42.5R cement declined from 115 Ghana cedis to 109 Ghana cedis per bag. Iron rods also recorded a substantial decline. The average price per ton dropped from 7,700 Ghana cedis to 7,050 Ghana cedis, providing some relief for builders. Not all construction inputs experienced price changes. The cost of rough sand remained unchanged at 2,700 Ghana cedis per double axle load, while smooth sand held steady at 3,500 Ghana cedis. Paint prices also eased during the period under review. A 4.5-litre bucket declined from 77 Ghana cedis to 74 Ghana cedis. Plywood followed a similar trend, with prices falling modestly from 104 Ghana cedis to 100 Ghana cedis per sheet. Nails were the exception. The price increased from 30 Ghana cedis to 32 Ghana cedis per kilogram. The latest prices suggest that while manufacturers are easing prices for some building materials, retail market dynamics continue to play a decisive role in determining what consumers finally pay.
That was data compiled by the Channel 1 Research Desk under the Channel 1 Market Price Barometer, tracking price movements across Accra. Away from that, motorists, transport operators and businesses should prepare for another increase in fuel cost from August 1, as industry projections point to higher petrol, diesel and LPG prices in the first pricing window of the month. The Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies project petrol prices could increase by about 7.58%, while diesel is expected to record the steepest increase of about 12.50%. LPG prices are also projected to rise by 4.13%. We have more in this report.
If the projections materialize, consumers will pay more at the pumps, adding to transportation and production costs for businesses. COMAC attributes the expected increases to the escalating conflict between the United States and Iran, which has pushed up international crude oil and refined petroleum product prices amid concerns over supply disruptions, higher freight costs and security risks along the Strait of Hormuz. The projected increases are also being supported by a slight depreciation of the Ghana cedi. The local currency weakened by 1.41% against the US dollar during the pricing window, moving from 11 cedis 50 pesos to 11 cedis 66 pesos to the dollar, increasing the cost of importing petroleum products. The projections come after the National Petroleum Authority released higher price floors for the first pricing window of August. The petrol price floor has been set at 14 cedis 53 pesos per litre, representing a 9.41% increase from the previous pricing window. Diesel price floor rose by 18.26% to 16 cedis 97 pesos per litre, while LPG increased by 8.54% to a little over 11 cedis per kilogram. The price floor represents the minimum price at which oil marketing companies and LPG marketing companies are expected to retail petroleum products during a pricing window. Fuel prices have been on an upward trend in recent weeks, with diesel retailing at close to 18 cedis per litre at some filling stations, while petrol is approaching 16 cedis per litre at selected outlets. Another round of fuel price increases could renew calls for fare hikes, potentially raising commuting costs for households and increasing inflationary pressures across the economy.
You heard there Daniel Sakite with that report. Now, Ghana's pension assets have exceeded 100 billion Ghana cedis, underscoring the sector's growing role as a source of long-term capital for economic development. According to the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, the pensions industry now accounts for 16.8% of Ghana's total financial sector assets. Speaking at the 7th Annual Conference of the Africa Pension Survivors Supervisors Association, Dr. Isiama said the milestone highlights the need to view pension funds not only as retirement savings, but also as a strategic financing source for sustainable economic growth and infrastructure development.
Across Africa, pension asset under management is estimated to exceed $420 billion US. And in Ghana, the 2025 Financial Stability Review that is published by the Financial Stability Council, it reported that pension assets grew by 26.3% in 1 year, from 86.23 billion cedis in 2024 to a little over 100 billion in 2025. And that the pensions industry accounted for 16.8% of Ghana's financial sector assets. At that scale, pensions are not peripheral to the financial system. They are one of its major pools of long-term domestic capital.
Dr. Johnson Isiama is Governor of the Bank of Ghana. Speaking at the same event, Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman called for comprehensive reforms to Africa's pension systems to extend retirement security to millions of informal sector workers who remain outside existing pension schemes.
For decades, pension systems around the world were designed around formal employment, relationships characterized by relatively predictable incomes and regular contributions. Yet Africa's labor market is far more diverse and dynamic. Many citizens move between occupations over the course of their working lives and therefore earn irregular incomes. Many combine multiple sources of livelihood or work outside traditional employment structures altogether. These realities require us to reimagine old age security by designing systems that recognize the realities of informal work and create pathways through which workers in the informal sector can participate meaningfully in retirement savings and protection schemes.
That was the Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. Moving on, Ghana's trade performance hits a new high in 2025, with the country recording a trade surplus of 148.3 billion Ghana cedis, more than 3 times what was recorded in 2024. This is according to the 2025 Annual International Mechanized Trade Statistics Report released by the Ghana Statistical Service, which indicates the country traded 654.7 billion cedis with the rest of the world last year. Here's the government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu with highlights of that report.
Ghana recorded total trade valued at 654.7 billion Ghana cedis in 2025. Exports reached 401.5 billion Ghana cedis, while imports stood at 253.2 billion Ghana cedis. This resulted in a trade surplus of 148.3 billion Ghana cedis, more than 3 times higher than the 44.7 billion Ghana cedis surplus recorded in 2024. In US dollar terms, Ghana's trade performance also improved strongly, supported mainly by higher export earnings from gold, cocoa, and petroleum products. Exports exceeded imports in every single month of 2025. December recorded the highest trade activity of the year, with exports reaching 46 billion Ghana cedis and a monthly trade surplus of 25.8 billion Ghana cedis. The report also shows that Ghana expanded its global trade reach in 2025. Ghana imported goods from 216 countries and exported to 163 countries.
You heard the government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu ending City Business News on Eyewitness News. I'm Nashika Caesar. Sanda, back to you.
Thank you so much, Nashika Caesar. It's now time to hear from you through Talkback. Talkback is where we hear from you on your messages, and it's brought to you by Valex Lease Equipment Limited. Valex Lease Affordable Document Management Solutions. Fred Tete Jabano is in studio to help us with Talkback. Mr. Lati, if you can just display the messages for us so we can hear what people are saying on our message platform. Fred?
Wills Yoga from Abutia Teti in the Volta region says, good.
Abutia Teti?
Abutia Teti.
I have to take you there to go and see.
Yeah, we have to visit that place. Good evening, Mr. Umaru Sanda. I support the court's decision to lower the presidential age to 35 and extend the term to 5 years. The change opened the doors for younger leaders to bring fresh perspective and energy, fostering innovative policies.
Okay, so let's take the next message, and that is from Enmil Akwensivi in Akwemufi, and he says, the acquittal and discharge of said Attah-Mensah needs to be explained into detail. Justice must be seen to be discharged, and if we demand for equity, we must come with clean hands. Okay, the next message is from
Daniel in Katamanso. He says, when ex-President Kufuor was leaving office, at his last State of the Nation address in early January 2009, he made a proposal for a 5-year term for the president. NDC communicators at the time rained a lot of insults at him. In the 2024 electioneering campaign, President Mahama, then in opposition, said a 4-year term is good than 8 years for a useless leader. You see how we do partisan politics in this country.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Let me bring Anna Fenaneku, who says, if I understand correctly, did the Court of Appeal find the charge sheet fundamentally defective and therefore acquit and discharge said in Attah-Mensah? Well, that's what he said. If so, what legal basis supported the High Court's conviction? This raises serious concerns about the administration of justice and its future implications. Fred?
Aziz for one says, I personally agree with the CLC on the 5-year term extension. However, my worry is when the government is vindictive and corrupt like the recent MPP government. Waiting for 10 years would be hell.
Okay, Yao in Achimota says, good evening, Citi FM. The way and manner successive governments are running this country with these types of rulings, let's be very careful. That's what he says. Angelo Kojo Fiagbe says, on the matter of Said Attah-Mensah's appeal, the 3 justices might be dented politically towards the NPP. Hence, this judgment to trigger anger against ruling National Democratic Congress. If we can go to the next message, Mr. Lati, if you can go further down.
Daniel von Sandema says the Constitutional Review Committee's proposal to extend the presidential term to 5 years is a step in the right direction, provided we have a visionary and developmental-oriented leader like John Dramani Mahama.
Fred, Daniel Akpaliok from Sandema came to the Northern Business Fair in Tamale and he bought me a very beautiful smoke. So I want to say a big thank you to Daniel Akpaliok of Sandema. And the Northern Business Fair was a beautiful, beautiful thing in Tamale.
You have been influenced.
No, I've not been influenced. He came to look for me and found me and said, hey, I've been listening to your show, collect smoke. So I've not been influenced. The OSP is listening. I don't want you to give this impression. Yakubu bin Chambers Akuka in Waliwali, what did he say?
Yakubu says, on whose permission is the government either accepting or rejecting portions of the Constitution Review Commission's recommendations? The last time I checked, there was nothing like a broader stakeholder consultation carried out by government. Yakubu, the government has the right to do that.
Ibrahim Abdul Momin, Dar es Salaam, Amasaman says, I do not think the appointment to Parliament is a good idea. Are they going to vote? Amasaman consensus is too large and must be divided. We are suffering here at Amasaman. No rules. Cornelius in Sunyani West Constituency, Bono region says, the age of a president should be 40 years and a role model to the upcoming youth who have the ambition of leadership. My humble opinion.
Kofi Abochi from Ahafo says, my concern has to do with the dual citizenship. A person may mismanage and embezzle public funds and quickly relocate to his or her second country. How do we fight corruption?
This one said, we're in this country where the vice president was on sick leave and the president out of the country on official duty. This leaves the speaker of parliament as the one in charge of the country. Do you want someone with double allegiance to hold this much power? This will be a threat to national security of this country. Nobody with dual citizenship should be near governance and control of the country. That's Ernest sending this message. Abdul Majib Jamoni from Tamale says, welcome back on air. Sanda, thank you. Hope you really had a great stay in Tamale. I really did. Please, I think the proposal by the Constitutional Review Committee on moving the presidential tenure from 4 years to 5 years is the best decision. And I think if the government should drop that, assuming we vote for a wicked leader, are we going to endure the wicked leadership for 5 good years? Well, lots of questions coming up. That's how we end tonight's edition of Eyewitness News, which came to you from our studios in Accra. I was supported by Fred Tetejabano for Talkback. Talkback is brought to you by Valleys Lee's Affordable Document Management Solutions. I am Umaru Sandamado, produced by Beverly Langdon, Sami Wiafe, Kobna Wilson, Juliana Odami Asari, and Yimano Latte helping us with the technical production, Edwin Kwakofi leading the new media team to bring us new media or bring us online. We'll be back tomorrow at 1700 GMT. Thank you for listening. Have a good night.
City News. We speak first. Reach our hotline on